Hi, welcome back to the channel, y'all. Listen, if you are into any type of criminal activities at this time in the United States of America, I would suggest that you go ahead and rethink your choices. If you know anybody that's heading down the wrong path, I would suggest that you go ahead and try to tell them to rethink their choices, or at least share this video with them. Donald Trump is planning on sending prisoners from the United States of America outsourced to El Salvador. Guess what? The governing authorities in El Salvador have already agreed to the agreement. Let's get into the details. I know a lot of you are going to be like, that's impossible. It can't be done. Well, the other day when he said he was going to be airlifting undocumented immigrants out of the United States of America and storing them on Guantanamo Bay in Cuba, a lot of people said that's violating their constitutional rights. That can't be done. They are guaranteed due process. Well, the first plane took off yesterday, right? Okay, so El Salvador has agreed to house violent U.S. criminals and receive deportees of any nationality. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced on Monday in an unprecedented and legally problematic deal that has alarmed critics and rights groups. On behalf of these individuals are saying this is not right. Marco Rubio unveiled the agreement after meeting with the Salvadoran President Nayib Bukele as part of a tour of several Central American countries intended to consolidate regional support for the Donald Trump administration's immigration policy. In an act of extraordinary friendship to our country, El Salvador has agreed to the most unprecedented and extraordinary migratory agreement anywhere in the world, he said. The country will continue accepting Salvadoran deportees who will be deported from the United States of America who illegally entered the U.S. They've agreed to that, but it will also accept for deportation any illegal alien in the United States who is a criminal from any nationality, be they MS-13 or Tren de Aragua, and house them in their jails. Now, he is referring to one of the scariest damn jails in the world. In addition, Bukele has offered to house in his jails dangerous American criminals in custody in our country, including those of us who are U.S. citizens and legal residents. Listen. The U.S. citizens and legal residents part, of course, that's going to get a lot of fight in the courts. Because I think by law, that's not supposed to even be legal. You commit a crime in your country of birth, this is your homeland, and suddenly you find yourself in El Salvador. Donald Trump said he's looking at all kinds of ways to cut costs. And apparently, over the years, the prison system in the United States of America became big commodity on the stock market. It became privatized prisons, which became super expensive to house criminals. And taxpayers shouldn't be paying all that money to house criminals, especially those who have committed serious crimes. So he's looking for a cheaper way to house American citizens who have committed serious crimes. I'm telling y'all right now, right? You don't want to listen to anybody who's trying to steer you down the right path. That's all good. Your mama, your sister, your brother, your girlfriend, your auntie, your uncle, your favorite homies, whoever it is that put money on your books and come look for you when you get locked up, that makes you feel comfortable being locked up or that you can do a bid, they won't be there. Because they won't be able to go to El Salvador to see you. And the conditions in El Salvador is completely different from what it is in the United States of America. Now, it is unclear whether the U.S. government will actually take up the offer. However, with questions around the legality of such moves, any effort by the Trump administration to deport incarcerated U.S. nationals, citizens, and legal residents to any other country could face significant pushback in the courts. That's not to say it won't be done. That's just to say people will be fighting about it. People are fighting about these people being deported. You see what's happening. They're going out of here at record speed. The U.S. is absolutely prohibited from deporting U.S. citizens, whether they are incarcerated or not. This is the words of a law professor at UC Berkeley, who specializes in immigration law and citizenship theory, Letty Volpe. Letty Volpe said the U.S. is absolutely prohibited from deporting U.S. citizens, whether they are incarcerated or not. We're talking about the Donald Trump cabinet here. A little tweak here, a little tweak there, and before you know it, some kind of an amendment is made to the law, and out of here you go. Y'all are, listen, if you want to mess around and find out, now's the time to do it. Bukele, the attorney, later confirmed the agreement. Oh no, Bukele is actually the El Salvadoran leader. He confirmed the agreement on a post on X. He said that we are willing to take in only convicted criminals, including convicted U.S. citizens, into our mega prison. Their mega prison is called CECOT. And of course, it will be in exchange for a fee. According to Donald Trump, paying El Salvador to house these prisoners will cut costs for the U.S. taxpayers dramatically. El Salvador Terrorism Confinement Center, as it's called, commonly referred to as CECOT, is the country's largest and newest prison, with a maximum capacity of 40,000 inmates. The fee that they would be charging the U.S., according to their leader Bukele, he said that that fee would be a significant amount. It's a low cost to the U.S. It'll be a significant amount to us. But it would make our entire prison system sustainable. Bukele has been credited for greatly reducing gang violence in the Central American country since launching a sweeping crackdown in 2022 that has seen more than 81,000 people jailed between 2022 and today. 81,000. But while the country's crime rate has fallen, the treatment of the imprisoned people there has triggered much outrage among human rights organizations who call El Salvador's prisons very inhumane. This is what I'm saying. If you get shipped to El Salvador, if somehow they work this deal out and you end up there, it's more than likely you will be in some conditions that you might think U.S. prisons are bad, but wait till you get to El Salvador, right? The State Department Travel Advisory for El Salvador also warns that those imprisoned in the country face harsh prison conditions without access to due process. Overcrowding constitutes a serious threat to prisoners' health and lives, the advisory says. In many facilities, provisions for sanitation, portable water, ventilation, temperature control, and lighting are inadequate or non-existent. I recently watched a documentary about this new prison system they have in El Salvador. It was 400 people to a large open cell, and they had one toilet and one sink. Make it work. Those within the Trump administration and their presidential allies have been quick to praise this announcement. with Elon Musk actually calling this a super great idea. Send the convicted Americans over to El Salvador. Long as they agree, we pay them a small amount of money, we save a whole lot of money. Send them to El Salvador. But the rights groups have condemned this agreement, and critics have warned that such a plan could be part of a democratic backsliding. In other words, the United States of America would not be functioning as a democratic society anymore. A prominent Latino advocate group said that it was a sad day for America. In a statement to CNN following the announcement on Monday, February 3rd of 2025, Roman Palomares, National President and Chairman of the Board of the League of the United Latin America Citizens, or LULAC as they're called, said the group opposes treating deported non-criminal migrants as if they're cattle, like you're rounding up the cows, who can be shuttled from one country to another country without regard for their home of origin. Speaking on CNN, before the announcement was made, Emerson College professor Nisha Gelman said that the U.S. was essentially proposing to send people to a country that is not the country of origin, nor is it necessarily the country that they even passed through to get to the U.S. This is just a completely different place. Speaking to CNN before the announcement, she said it is bizarre and it's unprecedented, this proposal that's being made, potentially between two authoritarian, populist, right-wing leaders who are seeking a transactional relationship. This is an international political scholar weighing in, giving her 2 cents. It's not rooted in any sort of legal provision, and likely it violates a number of international laws relating to the rights of these migrants. Okay, so if we're talking about migrants, that's one thing. You come to the United States of America, please understand that if they try to ship you back to your country and your government says no, we don't want that shipment, they're sending you to El Salvador or sending you to Guantanamo Bay in Cuba. If not that, then we have to look at the possibility of being charged for a crime in America when you are an American citizen, but being sent to a place like El Salvador for your criminal punishment. I know a lot of people are going to say, well, if you don't want to be sent to El Salvador, don't commit crimes. I don't know, man. This doesn't sit right with me. I just kind of feel like if you do the crime in your country, you should be able to do the time in your country, pay dues back to society in your country, be reformed in your country, and then be let back out into society after you were reformed in your country. What type of rehabilitation will one receive in El Salvador? El Salvador is a totally different culture. You might go to El Salvador and end up coming out speaking Spanish. Not only that, you might never make it out. Bukele, who's the leader in El Salvador, his vast and violent crackdown on gangs has earned admiration from Donald Trump, of course. His ability to remake his country, so to speak, get rid of all the stragglers and the troublemakers, so to speak, with a firm hand. Trump has repeatedly claimed without evidence that violent transnational gangs were taking over American cities, using both gangs as a frequent talking point to justify his hardline immigration policies and his border security. The president signed an executive order last month, specifically naming MS-13 and Tren de Aragua, citing their campaigns of violence and terror in the United States and internationally as threats to the stability of the international order in the Western Hemisphere. In other words, bullseye are on these two gangs. The orders included a recommendation that the State Department start the process of designating Tren de la Aragua as a foreign terrorist organization. On Friday, the U.S. Special Envoy for Latin America, Mauricio Claver Caron, hinted at the agreement between the U.S. and El Salvador, saying, Tren de Aragua members, they will want to go back to Venezuela rather than having to share a prison cell with the Salvadorian gangs like MS-13. That's not going to be good for them. It's part of what we want to discuss and how President Bukele can actually help us. Now, as far as Trump's immigration crackdown goes, the move comes amid a swift immigration crackdown with wide swath of the federal government mobilized to arrest and detain undocumented immigrants in the U.S. and to strip protection from migrants who are already in the country. If y'all haven't heard it, there are people who were let into the country under the Biden administration who were given protection until their cases were ushered through the system. Those people, a lot of them, have now been stripped of that protection, and ICE has been given the order to pick them up, round them up, and get them the hell up out of here. I know, man, it's a callous time. Trump has threatened actions against nations that will not accept these deportation flights coming back with their nationals on it from the U.S., and briefly walks back from the brink of a damaging trade war with Colombia over these repatriation flights. He is dead serious. Like, you got to take your people back. Matter of fact, if you don't want to take them back, off to Guantanamo they go for now. And for the people who are saying you can't do that, may I remind you that a flight has already left the United States of America with undocumented immigrants who will be dropped off in Guantanamo. Donald Trump has already given the order, has already put hundreds of troops in Guantanamo to handle the workload, and the order is to make the place preparable and ready to house 30,000 individuals. Damn. So, with that said, the main part I want you to think about what was said here is this. If a country decides they don't want their people back, when that flight hits their country, they are going to Guantanamo Bay in Cuba, or they are going to end up in El Salvador. If American citizens commit grotesque crimes where they will be housed in prisons for long periods, years upon years, they too could find themselves outsourced, shipped to El Salvador to do your time in a El Salvador prison. Listen, I've seen the documentary, man. The El Salvador prison system is something that you do not want to be a part of. The first thing I noticed was everybody in there was naked. Like, they have underwears on. They all have on some white boxer shorts. That's it. They have no shirt. They have no shoes. And as it said, there is no AC in these places. The temperature is not regulated. So if you're cold, you're just cold. And if you're hot, you're just hot. And you're there with standing space, because ain't really no space there to sleep the way that they're housed. And could you imagine sharing one toilet with 100 different people and one sink with 100 people? The number was 400 for one toilet. And the toilet must be kept clean. And the sink must be kept clean. This is crazy. Leave your comments in the comment section below. Tell me what you think about U.S. citizens specifically who have committed crimes, of course, being shipped off to the prison system in El Salvador Terrorism Confinement Center, or El Salvador's CECOT prison. El Salvador CECOT prison, by the way, is made to house about 40,000 prisoners. More than likely, they will be taking the worst of the worst prisoners from the United States of America, or they will be taking immigrants or migrants who have no legal status in the U.S. but did come here and commit a crime. Say, for instance, you came to the U.S., right? You are here illegally. You committed a crime. You raped and murdered, and then you are caught. This is where you would be sent, right? Along with born, bred Americans who might have committed the same crime as well, and you've been sentenced to 70, 80 years in prison. This is where you probably will go. That prison, the CECOT in El Salvador, is actually built to house at maximum capacity 40,000 inmates. At present time, I believe it currently houses 14,000 inmates. So there's lots of room for many more to get on board. And the El Salvador government, Bukele, is looking forward to the resources that the U.S. will pay them to house these people, because that will allow them to keep their prison system running smoothly. Leave your comments in the comment section below. I will catch you on the next video. Hit that subscribe button. Click the bell next to the subscribe button so you are notified every time a new video is uploaded, or every time we update a story we have covered previously on SouFLoTV. I'm out. Peace.